Hi everyone, welcome to a new video, welcome to my channel. My name is Natasha, I'm a polyglot fluent in 9 languages, currently working on my language number 10. And here on my channel, I'm sharing different language learning stories, tips, tricks, problems, and issues. And in today's video, we are going to be fixing one very common issue when it comes to language learning. A lot of people are able to learn a new language, they're able to memorize a lot of words, they're able to even learn or overcome grammar issues. However, the problem that everyone encounters on their language learning journey is lack of self-confidence when it comes to speaking in that language, especially with native speakers. This is a problem that I have had a few times in my life. I managed to overcome it, and I'm sure you can overcome it too with few of my tips and tricks that I'm going to share today in this video with you, so make sure you stay till the end. First of all, it's very important to understand why is this happening. Why is a smart person who managed to learn a lot of new words in a new language, who managed to understand almost everything when it comes to listening to this language, who also managed to overcome crazy difficult grammar, why is that person not able to start speaking the language that they dedicated so much time to learning? So the reason why this happens is perfectly human and understandable. We are always feeling less self-confident when speaking foreign languages than when we speak in our native language. Obviously, it's very normal that you are never going to be able to reach same level of fluency in a foreign language as you have in your native, especially if you started learning this foreign language when you're grown up, as a grown-up person. If you started learning it as a child, and the younger the better, you're probably gonna reach a native fluency at some point. However, if you started as a grown-up person, chances are you will never be equally good in this foreign language, no matter how much time you dedicate as you are in your native one. So therefore, you are very likely to feel less self-confident when speaking this language. You are probably feeling very scared of making mistakes, of mispronouncing words, or using a different word that might have totally different meaning in a new language. And also a lot of people are scared of making grammar mistakes that are going to change the meaning of the sentence, and they're also very scared of being made fun of. However, all these reasons are valid. It's perfectly fine not to feel very self-confident when it comes to speaking in a foreign language. However, good news is that you can overcome all of these problems. The first way to overcome this is something that might be unpopular opinion among language experts, and it is the fact that I think it's very important to figure out when is the right time for you to actually start speaking in this new language. A lot of language teachers and experts are recommending students to start speaking as soon as possible, or to try speaking as soon as possible, which means that they usually recommend the beginners to start having conversations, ideally with native speakers or even with other language learners of their target language. However, I think that's wrong. I think it is perfectly fine that if you're a beginner, to just start by memorizing words, learning new vocabulary, learning certain more simple grammar rules, and also listening to the language a lot. However, I don't think that you should be trying to speak this language when you're on a beginner level, because this might actually destroy your self-confidence when it comes to speaking later. I believe that if you're a beginner and your vocabulary is like 30 or 50 basic words, such as greetings, saying thank you, asking for directions, and all those basic things you learn on the level A1, you are not actually able to have a real conversation. And if you try to have it, especially with native speakers, you are not going to be able to do it. You cannot have a conversation or speak a language if everything you know is 10 sentences in that new language, which is very normal in the beginning. So what I feel is that a lot of people are trying to talk or speak that language too early. They don't give themselves enough time to learn, to expand their vocabulary, to learn more grammar rules, or to listen to the spoken language more before they start speaking. And therefore they lose their self-confidence once they start speaking, and they feel like they're stupid when they shouldn't, they're just beginners. So I would definitely recommend you to figure out when is the right time to start having conversations in a new language. And it's definitely not after you had 2 or 3 classes, because it's just too short of a time for you to be able to speak. My tip number 2 that I would recommend everyone to do is that once you have reached certain level of language learning or certain level of fluency and you feel ready to start having conversations with native speakers especially, I always recommend to people to tell to their native speaker that they're talking to that they don't speak that well. This is something that I recommend everyone doing because I have a feeling that once you warn a native speaker or your partner in conversation that your language skills are not that great, they usually tend to speak slower or use simple sentence structure, more simple words that you are able to understand, and therefore you're actually going to be able to hold a conversation with them. On the other hand, if you are too self-confident and too ambitious, and if you don't warn them that your language level is not that high and that you're not that fluent as they might expect you to be, and if they start speaking to you in a very normal way, like they would speak with another native speaker, you are very likely not to understand, first of all, and then also not to participate in a conversation. So every time I speak with anyone in these 9 languages that I'm fluent in, my first sentence usually is, "Oh, I'm so sorry, my Spanish or Italian or Greek or whatever is not that great," or "I speak just a little bit, even though I don't." I have a feeling that it's always better to expect less and then be positively surprised than to promise a lot and then be disappointed in the end. So if you're going to have a conversation with a native speaker or with someone who speaks your target language, always mention in the beginning that I don't speak that good, or I'm not that fluent, or I just speak a little bit. This is the great conversation starter. They're going to tolerate your mistakes and they're also going to help you to actually hold a conversation. Another thing that I recommend everyone to do is to ask your fellow conversation partner or a native speaker to correct your mistakes. This is, in my opinion, the best way to improve your language skills and to learn new words or new grammar rules, because somehow when someone corrects your mistake, it sticks with you. You always remember it and you start paying attention to that. This always happens to me. I still remember every single time someone corrected me in their native language and I never made the same mistake again. I think this might have something to do with anxiety or lack of self-confidence, because every time someone corrects me, I feel a little bit personally attacked. But at the same time, it helps me to actually remember what they corrected me about and I never make the same mistake again. So this is something that is going to help you when it comes to I know that everyone is afraid of making mistakes in a new language, which is not something you can avoid. It's perfectly normal to make these mistakes. However, always ask people to correct you, because this way you are definitely going to learn much faster and you're not gonna make those same mistakes again. And also, speaking in that foreign language is not going to be so stressful for you because you know that you're going to be learning new things, and also the person you're speaking with is going to be aware that you are still someone who is learning a language and they cannot expect you to be perfect. And the last tip on how to overcome this lack of self-confidence when it comes to speaking a new language is to realize how amazing you are for even trying to learn a new language. A lot of people never even try learning a new language, or they do and they give up, or they're not that much into languages. So something that I always repeat to people who are trying to learn any language is to realize how good they actually are for even trying. You don't have to be super talented, you don't have to learn 10 languages or whatever. Just the fact that you are trying to learn any language is already amazing. You are trying to come out of your comfort zone. You are trying to learn something new, something that is not really easy, especially if you're a grown-up person, if you're trying to learn it on your own without anyone helping you, and if you're dedicating your free time that you probably don't have that much of during the day, that already means that you're pretty admirable as a person. So, and another thing I want to say is that when you're learning a new language and trying to speak in that new language, people who also had that experience, who also tried learning a new language, will always have understanding for you. Even if your language skills are not that great, even if you're not that fluent, even if you make a lot of mistakes in pronunciation or grammar, people who have been there in your place, who have also tried learning any language, will understand you. So there is no reason to actually feel a lack of self-confidence in front of these people, because they know how it is to be in your position. And those people who have never tried learning any language in their life, they are definitely not in a position to judge you, because you cannot judge someone that you have never, a person you have never been in a position of. So in a case you are talking to someone who has tried learning other languages, there is no need for you to feel ashamed of your language skills, because they have definitely been in your position before, and those who have never tried learning any language are not in a position to judge, so you should definitely feel kind of above them. I hate saying this, but I think you should. So anyway, I hope my tips have helped you a little bit. Let me know in the comments, how is your experience with this problem? Do you have lower self-confidence when it comes to when you're speaking in another language than when you're speaking in your own? And what did you use? What tips and tricks did you use to overcome this problem? Thank you so much for staying with me till the end of this video, and see you next week.